And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Funvee Tailgate, presented by ThunderblogSports.com, a part of the Bullpen Cart podcast feed. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Joining me for the first time on the Funvee Tailgate this season, because Matty D forgot he was supposed to have dinner with his grandma, Greg the Prophet Piatelli.
Was I supposed to say something? I needed a better. Normally you give me a "How are you, man?" or a "Hey, bud, what's up?"
Let's try this again. Joining me because Matt is an idiot and forgot to have dinner with his grandmother, Greg the Prophet Piatelli. How are you?
We're firing on all cylinders tonight. We are firing on all cylinders tonight.
Yeah, the post-Christmas feast has not kept me down, Greg.
Hey, listen, I'm just enjoying the World Junior Championship, so that's hockey for those keeping score. Best kid on Team USA is a 17-year-old who wears a face mask because he's not technically old enough to be in the tournament to not wear a face mask. And he looked all right, but Team Canada looks gross, and we'll talk about that at the end of the pod on the Blue Line Blue Line Icing pod.
Yes. We have not recorded a second episode, but you're going to get a little bonus coverage at the end of this. Talk a little World Juniors.
That's a tease if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, turn of the calendar talk, since we're at another one of those mild markers or whatever you want to call it. But let's talk a little football, Greg.
Wait, real quick. If you were a real producer, you would create a best of from the year that was.
Yeah, I mean, I figure since we're recording a live episode, we could do best ofs, but I mean, a little tough to jump back and sift through it.
I want you to go through every single episode ever recorded this year, and pull out all the best tidbits and clips.
I want to pull out all the idiot takes that we had where we were dead wrong about things.
I mean, that's impossible. That's impossible because I nailed the Red Sox winning the World Series. So,
I mean, there might be a little bit of bias on that take, so we can sift you out. But I mean, Jared saying that the Red Sox lost the JD Martinez sweepstakes compared to the Yankees getting Giancarlo Stanton.
I called that.
I'm pretty sure Andy and I both really sold off on a number of teams that made the playoffs. I think we really were trying to temper the expectations of the Bears. We were not buying into the Rams. We didn't think they could do it again. I think we were both really high on the Eagles, but that was also a pretty biased take. Yeah, there's some really good ones. I'm trying to think of good baseball ones that we really missed. But you and I, we nailed Ronald Acuna. You nailed the Red Sox. I think I had them winning the division.
You had them coming out of the American League, I thought, right?
Did I have them coming out of the AL? Did I have them winning the World Series?
You might have had Houston, but I mean, you might have had Houston, but that's just as good of a pick. So,
yeah, I mean, I think every single sports moment of the year came from that series, Boston-Houston. So I guess we can both take credit for some of our takes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we do a much better job at baseball than was done at football this year.
Is that a shot at Matt? He's not even here to defend himself.
No,
the guy forgot he was having dinner with his grandmother. He's already having a bad week.
I think it's about your football knowledge as well.
Whoa. You know what? I was wrong about a lot of stuff. I won't share my total net loss on football in terms of gambling. I'll just put it that way.
Jordy, what I do want to talk about is the Syracuse Orange facing off in Orlando, Florida, in the Camping World Bowl versus West Virginia Mountaineers, former Big East matchup. Two teams that have since left the Big East, and a matchup that coming into the season, if you said Syracuse was going to make a bowl versus West Virginia, with all the hype that West Virginia got before the season, I would have said you're nuts. But here we are tomorrow, big day. Everyone watch. Huge.
Yeah, 5:15, right around the time that if you do have to work this week, you're either driving home and listening to our beautiful voices, So you can throw this on in the background, hear a little bit of our analysis. Or if you're at the bar, which hopefully you will be, I know I will be, you're throwing this game on. It's definitely going to be fun. I know Will Greer, at quarterback of the Mountaineers, is not playing. So my question to you, Greg, are twofold. One, Syracuse is a 2-point favorite, and the other is over-under of 66. Now, which one do you think is more ridiculous?
The under at 66.
You think that's the more ridiculous line?
I mean, just knowing how many points these two teams put up throughout the year. I watched their press conference today, the two coaches, and they both were talking about how good the defenses were. But I know Syracuse has some guys missing on defense, and West Virginia has a bunch of guys missing on offense in terms of sitting out for the draft and everything. But West Virginia, their quarterback, the two guys they got going tomorrow, both of them were able to save a year eligibility because of Will Greer, and they're apparently like really high recruited, like 4 or 5 star players. So it's kind of funny because the talk was that Dino Baber, Syracuse coach, was basically saying that it's hard to scout a quarterback with 13 plays on film, basically.
Sure.
Most of those are fourth quarter garbage time. So it's going to be, I think, a little bit of a struggle at first. Bowl games always tend to be sloppy, Jordy, because you think about it, you get 15 practices from the end of the season, which is right before Thanksgiving, or right after Thanksgiving, right? So you get 15 practices between Thanksgiving and today, or for tomorrow for the game. So it's like, what can you really do in that short amount of practice in that long amount of time? So it's going to be sloppy. 66. I mean, for me, I think that's the more absurd number just based on the offenses throughout the season. But as we talk about it, I guess I'm talking myself for the under. But you know what? I'm just pumped they're there. First bowl game in a while. So
yeah, as an alum, I mean, do you think tomorrow makes a difference in terms of the trajectory of the program? Like, it either boosts them up to win, or it doesn't really do anything if they lose, or the opposite? I mean, what are you thinking there?
No, I think it's it's year 3 of Dino Babers, so he took a program that was brutal for the years before him and turned it around and made them a bowl eligible team. So the season is already a success. And the season,
Greg Paulus year?
What?
You not count the year Greg Paulus was quarterback?
Yeah, that was what, 7 years ago? That was when we were 9 years ago. 10 years ago. That was when we were freshmen. That was when we were freshmen in college. That was 10 years ago. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it was a successful season. If anyone who's not even an alumni, Syracuse is definitely a positive year for them. And a big thing that Dino Babers, the coach, was saying today was basically that, this is sort of a tradition to build on. You just got a huge extension, but he was saying, yeah, they're playing for a trophy, and yeah, it's not the national championship, but a trophy inside of your facility looks better than not, than Camping World participants. So he was saying, there is still something to play for, and he likes the fact that they do have that. And Syracuse, West Virginia used to play for an actual trophy back in the day when they were Big East rivals, but obviously that's been retired. So I'm excited.
Yeah. What was the trophy they played for?
They said it, but I couldn't tell you the exact name. It's because they had a coach who coached both. There's like,
so there's like actual, not like how there's 15 billion Paul Bunyan trophies or some form of Paul Bunyan in the Big Ten.
Right. This is like a coach who coached both teams or something like that.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, the other game tomorrow, Purdue, Auburn, and Iowa State, Washington State. Jordy, any of these matchups really you want to talk about further?
Yeah, Iowa State, Washington State should be a really interesting game there. You got Iowa State, who's been, they're an 8-4 team, but they made some noise. I mean, they're basically the Iowa Matty D's. He always, whenever they were playing a Big 12 team, if you don't remember this, Matty D would say, watch out for these guys, make sure you keep them on your calendar, on your radar. And they ended up playing their 12th game during championship weekend. It was a makeup game where they were supposed to play South Dakota State. They ended up playing Drake of the FCS and got their 8th win there. But back-to-back losses at the start of the year to Iowa and Oklahoma kind of kept them off of everybody's radar. But they only lost to Oklahoma by 10 points. If they beat TCU and they're a 9-3 squad, I mean, we might be thinking something completely different. But they were able to pull off some upsets. They beat West Virginia. They beat Oklahoma State when they were ranked. And when they want to put up points, they can certainly do that. So definitely not a team to sleep on. Washington State, they are the favorites in this game. They can certainly, really get after it. They certainly have, a lot of offense in the air and a lot of different, ways to beat you. But I would not sleep on the Cyclones in this game.
Yeah, no, and great analysis. I'm just curious as to why Iowa State even played that game, because they didn't need it for the minimum of games. They already hit that, so I wonder why they ended up having to play that. But the Washington State quarterback, the mustache kid, he's been a story all year and something that I think is exciting. And 36 touchdowns on the year is pretty impressive. No small feat for sure. Are you surprised that this is in San Antonio, Texas, and neither team is anywhere close to it?
Not really. I mean, that's every bowl game. The Camping World Bowl is at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, and that's between a team in West Virginia and a team in New York. That's just what these bowl games do. They take people to warmer climates, get them out of the way and out of their normal wintry life. And you can't say the same thing about Auburn, considering Auburn, Alabama is south of Nashville, where the Music City Bowl is being played. But it certainly gets the people of Purdue. I don't forget what city in Indiana that is, but gets them out of the Midwest winters and down to a almost a swell city, but an awesome city like Nashville, and a good time there.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. So before we head to Auburn, Purdue, I just want to touch quickly Washington State, Iowa State. Who you got?
That's a good question. I'm probably going to go with the favorites in Washington State there. I think they can really get it done. I know Iowa State, when they want to play close, they can certainly do that. But there have also been times where they cannot really get the offense going. They only beat Drake by a grand total of 3 points. That's an FCS squad. They only beat a team like Akron by 13. That's a MAC squad. But then on the flip side of it, they hold a TCU team to 17 points. Then again, we saw what they did the other night in the forget the crap name of that bowl they were in the other night. But but they only were able to put up 14 on them. So a little bit of inconsistency there. I'm going to go with a little more of a consistent hand in the Huskies.
Yeah, good choice. I would say the same thing. For Auburn, Purdue, I think I'm taking Purdue. The negatives to Purdue would be that the reason why they had some big wins this year, including over BC, is simply because they have speed, right? They have that true freshman wide receiver, running back player who they love getting the ball. DJ Knox, I believe is his name, or maybe Rondell Moore.
No, Rondell Moore is a wide receiver, but they're both solid players for them.
Well, yeah, one of the two is a true freshman, and so they have the speed to, I think, match Auburn, but they don't have SEC speed, which is the only negative on Purdue. But the thing is, with these bowl games, if we learned anything, is that unless you have a coach who can get players up for a bowl game, teams aren't going to perform. You look at Auburn from last year, a team that was one win away potentially from making the SEC championship, or in the SEC championship, but also one win away from potentially getting into the college playoff if they had won the SEC championship. And then they went out and played an undefeated Central Florida team, and they laid an egg. So, to me, they've proven that they're not a team that will go out of their way to win a bowl game, especially against a team that they find inferior to them because they're not SEC or some other big rival school like that. So, looking across the field and you see Purdue, they might turn around and have a similar result to last year. So, something to keep an eye on. Let's move on, Jordy. Saturday, start with the matchup of Florida, Michigan, sort of two teams historically that are known for doing well, but this year sort of didn't meet the expectations, or didn't do as well as they wanted to.
They laid eggs when it mattered the most. It's probably
Yeah,
the best.
but this is also a big bounce back year for Florida, considering how terrible they were last year. So, what do you think? Does Harbaugh get a win, or is Florida able to pull it out?
I think Harbaugh pulls out the win. He's proven, if anything, that A, he can't beat Ohio State, and B, he loves bowl season. Because if you remember, I think it was 3 years ago, Michigan comes out, I think it was against Florida. It was against an SEC opponent, and Jim Harbaugh comes out and pummels them. And that was the beginning of the Michigan is back. Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the future for the Wolverines. And I think that this is going to be another one of those games of showing, hey, this mega loss to Ohio State where you let up the most points ever in the history of the rivalry was just an anomaly. We're going to be fine. We're going to do this, that, and the other thing. With Shea Patterson and with all these different guys, Higdon with their defense, I think they're going to squeak it out. The over-under set at 50, which I think is a little high for this kind of a game with the quality of defenses both squads bring. But I do like Michigan here. The 5.5-point spread does scare me a little bit.
I like Michigan, and I think it's going to be high scoring. I think these are two. Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan's going to put up a lot of points. I think Michigan's defense is good enough to shut down Florida. I mean, if you look at that loss to Ohio State, Michigan, they got beat by a quarterback who could throw the ball, and then they got Notre Dame, who was on the road, but also a quarterback who was decent enough. And I don't know if Florida has that, so. I think the throwing ability of the quarterback for Florida is just nowhere near good enough to beat that Michigan defense. If everyone plays, I'm not sure who's sitting, who's not, all that. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Michigan puts up a lot of points. I think more than 5. I think they cover. Okay. Just to talk about the two games that mean nothing on that day: South Carolina, Virginia, Arkansas State, Nevada. I personally always going to root for the ACC, so even though I hate Virginia, I'll go Virginia over South Carolina.
You got against Virginia?
What?
Basketball? Is it a basketball thing that you have against Virginia?
Basketball, lacrosse, football.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
But mainly lacrosse and basketball.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna throw the under there, 54 points, and then for the other Arkansas State, Nevada. Colin Kaepernick. I'll stand with no. You know what? I'll go Arkansas State.
Okay.
Just because it's a 2-point spread, so fuck it. Yeah, Jordy, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go the same with you. Virginia in a low-scoring game, and then probably Nevada, and I like the over of 56 there. Both squads can really put up points. Yeah, Kaepernick still holds, I think, their records for both passing and rushing yards, at least for a quarterback. And Nevada always traditionally has been a high-scoring squad, so I like it there. I mean, they're an air raid offense, and I think that's what you gotta keep running with.
So before we get to the semifinal games, which is also on the 29th Saturday, do you want to jump ahead to the January 1st matchups, some of the big ones, including Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Washington, Penn State, Kentucky, LSU, UCF, or?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to do New Year's Eve then, Monday's games, and then go back to college football playoff?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing on New Year's Eve excites me, but what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Stanford Pitt might be a good game. It might be a good old-fashioned beatdown in terms of just slow scoring and classic football in that sense. Same thing with Utah, Northwestern. Both schools can be interesting that way. I'd be really interested, though, in seeing what Texas A&M, NC State has to bring for us. Both squads, Jimbo Fisher obviously has been having a pretty solid year as the coach of Texas A&M. He obviously almost took down Clemson. And NC State, they can really put points up on the board. So that would definitely be a game to watch. If you're at a house party or something and they're throwing out some sort of sporting event before you throw it over to ABC and Ryan Seacrest. That's probably something to keep on is the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl. between the Wolfpack of NC State and the Aggies of Texas A&M.
Peace out, Seacrest. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of ACC teams playing that day. I think Pitt beat Stanford, ACC. I think I think Northwestern, most overrated team out there, 8-5, and somehow they're ranked in the top 25. Please spare me. What a terrible, terrible decision for the AP poll there. NC State, Texas A&M. NC State was a team that played a lot of teams tough throughout the year, and people kept talking about them upsetting some big time teams, but ultimately Syracuse beat them. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Texas A&M wins, just because while Syracuse is good, they are not. No, you know what? I'll go NC State. Make Syracuse look better. I'll go NC State, ACC. But obviously Texas A&M huge favorite in that game. So, good picks, Jordy. Good picks.
But definitely a day to have football on in the background as you're getting ready for whatever you're doing on New Year's Eve. Not the most enticing matchup, especially compared to New Year's Day, where you're laying on a couch hungover. You've already had the playoff, and you've had your Sunday of NFL, and you find out if your team has made the playoffs or not, and you're now hungover from your New Year's Eve action. Little January 1st bowls. We kick it off with the Outback Bowl, a game that normally is Florida-Michigan. I think they played in that, 4 or 5 times in the last 15 years. But you got Mississippi State against Iowa. Interesting enough, but you have that on for the first hour. Then you get LSU UCF in the first of the other 4 New Year's 6 bowls. Nothing that I have in terms of betting on this one, Greg. I mean, sadly, UCF lost their quarterback, Mackenzie Milton, in the AAC championship. I almost said ACC. So I think LSU's got this one in the bag. But, it's something to be interested there. You can see a little Coach O, hear a little action. But certainly have that flipping between Kentucky, Penn State.
So why are there no line or over-under for this game?
I would assume because of the Mackenzie Milton injury.
So is he confirmed out or no?
Yeah, I mean, he's hurt. He's really hurt.
So if he's confirmed out, then you take LSU all the way. But I guess the issue then becomes, like we talked about last year, Auburn, some of their key guys sat for the draft and all that, and how we're playing UCF and really embarrassed the SEC. I don't think Coach O, like you said, lets his team get away with that. So I think LSU just manhandles a backup quarterback. Although they did win late against Memphis, so they're proving that they can put up some points after the fact that they need to. But I think LSU and Coach O's D gets the job done versus backup.
No, I agree with that, and I looked it up on an app that I have. I have 7.5-point favorites for the Tigers of LSU and a 55.5 over/under line. I take LSU at 7.5. I don't know about 55 points.
Nice, Jordy. I mean, good for you, by the way. No free ads. Nice job.
Yeah, it's just a nap. Everybody can make a nap. What happens? Let's go to Kentucky Penn State, though, because I'm actually really intrigued at this game. Camping World Stadium, Greg's got to make a quick turnaround because they will be hosting the Citrus Bowl between number 12 Penn State and number 14 Kentucky. Very interesting showdown between 2 different teams. Penn State, obviously, bringing back their quarterback, Trace McSorley. He's had himself an up and down year, let's say that. And then Kentucky with their solid defense and their stud running back, Benny Snell Jr. Greg, what do you think about this matchup?
I think it's, like you said, an intriguing matchup because you got a team in Penn State that severely underperformed based on their preseason expectations, and you got a team in Kentucky who severely overperformed based on their preseason expectations. So it's sort of a Penn State has a chance to redeem and make up for their season, has a chance to go out and win a game and really end their season on a high note, despite it being 9 losses or 3 losses is not bad, but when you're Penn State, you expect, especially recently, and Trace McSorley and all that, you expect to be in the mix, in the conversation. So, and then for Kentucky, there's sort of a chance for you to put an exclamation point on a very successful season, sort of like the Syracuse-West Virginia matchup we were talking about a little earlier. So different motivations. And Trace McSorley, like you said, depends upon which one we get. Either way, I think you hammer the over, 47.5, and I think Kentucky keeps it closer than a 6.5 spread.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought as well. I might even take them outright. But yeah, it's going to be it's probably the game to watch really up until you get to the Rose Bowl, which is going to be clear after any of these games end. 5 p.m. on New Year's Day, the Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual between Washington and Ohio State. Washington, the Pac-12 champion. Ohio State, the Big Ten champion, going back to the usual criteria to get that game underway. Ohio State comes in the 6.5-point favorite. I think that's just out of respect for the Pac-12 champ Huskies. Greg, am I wrong in thinking that?
No, because Washington's coach, former Boise State, has a flair for the dramatics in big games and likes to pull little stuff and gets his team fired up, just like Urban Meyer does for big games. So between the two coaches, they know how to motivate their team. With that said, 6.5, you're right, does seem a little low for the spread, but no real spread outside of Georgia is really that big. So I think that's just Vegas keeping it close. But yeah, I mean, I'm going Ohio State, playing for Urban's last game and all that, blah, blah, blah. Is Haskins playing, I assume, and everyone's playing for them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going Ohio State big time.
Big time. Wouldn't say bet the farm, but you might as well. But last game of New Year's Day is the Sugar Bowl between Georgia and Texas. Texas comes in as a 13-point dog. Maybe the somewhat questionable pick. I know Matt and I talked a lot about it when the Bulls first came out, but yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say Georgia is close enough to a lock of a win, but is 13 the right number on this game, Greg?
Well, it's tough, right? Because Georgia, in the beginning of the year, their offense was sort of non-existent, sort of a hangover from last season, I guess, a little bit. And I say non-existent, even though they put up a ton of numbers, but they weren't beating teams like they were the year before, and it didn't look pretty like it had in previous years. So, I think, including a loss to LSU, I think that maybe that's the reason, just because they think that Texas' defense might have a shot. It's interesting to say because, I was listening to something and people were talking about Texas football, right? And they were saying that because of the quarterback and because of Ellinger, that Texas has a legit offense and has a legit chance to make some noise. And if Georgia's guys are sitting because of the NFL and that's the trend recently, especially on defense where their studs are, it could be an interesting game. Now, the question is, does Georgia play their backup quarterback who is going to transfer and let him sort of use this as a show me what you can do, or do they run with their guy and keep him in it?
Yeah, I think have they announced that they might go with him? I thought they were going with Fromm.
No, I know they're going with Fromm, but all year they've sort of had that kid come in as situational football and comes in a lot in the red zone. What's his name? Fields? Yeah, Justin Fields. They've had him come in and sort of as their random situational stuff here and there. But I don't know. Thought maybe they might let him do it, but that never happens anyway. Yeah, Georgia. I'm definitely picking Georgia, but I just trying to give you a reason as to why Texas is that close. Anyway, let's move on. Final four. Notre Dame, Clemson. Let's start with a 2-3 matchup. Jordy at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The Cotton Bowl. Trevor Lawrence, true freshman QB. Right, Travis Etienne was a true freshman last year, 2 years ago.
Yep, last year.
So super young for there, and then Notre Dame also starting a young quarterback who actually again took the job from just like Trevor Lawrence took the job from won the job. Thank you. But the big question is Clemson having some key defensive line guys out due to a failed drug test. Now, do we know what drugs it was?
I did not see what it was. I thought I'm not even going to make a comment. I'm not sure what kind of drugs they are.
You thought what? It was what?
I thought it was weed, but I'm not going to make. I don't want to jump to any sort of conclusion.
So was it the NCAA who suspended them or the team?
I believe it was the team that suspended them. Who was it? Was it Oklahoma that had the problems with the law?
And then Alabama benched some guys for breaking team rules. So
that's what it was. Alabama did, yeah.
It looks like Notre Dame's the only one that came out scot-free here.
Yeah, it's a banned substance for Dexter Lawrence. So who knows? I mean, geesh, they're waiting for a B sample to see if it was a false positive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Staying on the topic of the game, I think it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. I think they have to play a pretty perfect game to a certain degree, right? They have to play, let's say, 95% game, just because of the fact that we've seen Clemson struggle and they've kept teams in these games so much that I think that could happen here with a squad like Notre Dame, but they have to come out strong. There have been games where, granted, a lot of this was before Ian Book, but there have been games where they have come out sluggish and they've really had to overcome things. I mean, it happened against Navy. It kind of happened against Virginia Tech. They really started to pull away in the second quarter, but that first quarter looked like there might be something there. Clemson, though, they kept Syracuse in it for a while in that game. I made a little bit of money on that. Not a big deal. But
yeah, and I mean, to be fair to Clemson, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and they had their third string quarterback in the game. But you're right. I mean, the big thing is Notre Dame beat Michigan. They absolutely manhandled Syracuse. They with their new quarterback, sort of, they're sort of the underrated team throughout all year, because coming into the season, it was the hype between Kyler Murray and Alabama. This is like Notre Dame is the team that no one's talking about, kind of like Deshaun Watson a couple years ago, and that team that won for Clemson. Going into it, it was what, Jameis Winston, and it was Alabama. No, that was Ohio State. Sorry, but you know what I mean. It was again Alabama, and it was
Mariota. You're talking about that year Ohio State won?
Right. So exactly. So it's sort of the team that no one's talking about, and all year they've been good. All year they've been doing their business. Every big matchup they turn around and they just win it, which is something that we haven't seen from Notre Dame in a while.
No, and that's why they need to play, I'd say, 95% game. They don't need to be fully 100% perfect. They can have a little bit of a slip up, but save the slip up for like the third quarter. You need perfect first, second, and fourth quarters to really have a shot at pulling this thing out.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Clemson's missing their best D tackle,
that's true. You might open it up.
Yeah, I mean, reality is, like, Notre Dame, they established the run, but really their strength is in their receivers. They have some pure athletes out of receiver who just make plays, and they give them the ball and space to get out and make some guys miss. So for me, I honestly think that this matchup is going to come down to Clemson's offense versus Notre Dame's defense, and Trevor Lawrence is really what I think. And that's going to be just like in the Bama game. It's really going to be Trevor Lawrence and what the offense can do, and Travis Etienne and what they can do versus defenses. Because again, if we're being honest, Notre Dame's offense I think can do well against Clemson's defense. So I really truly believe is Trevor Lawrence and the offense going to be able to score enough against Notre Dame's defense to win.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment, and I think
that's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, it will have to see how it goes.
But where's he from? From Georgia, so he's from the South. So I guess he I don't know. Texas won't be too big for him, but yeah, I mean, I just that's what I think it comes down to. Ultimately, I do think Clemson does win, but 13 points is a crazy spread for me.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think I'm going to probably throw a little bit down on Notre Dame plus 13. I know I'm getting handed a $5 bill to throw on the Irish from Third and Girl, so have some action there here, at least in our household. But yeah, I certainly think this will be the more entertaining of the two, or am I stretching a little bit there? Are you excited for the 1 versus 4 matchup, Greg?
I'm excited for Kyler Murray versus Alabama's defense.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's all it is. It comes down. He has a shot.
Well, this is his last football game, right? This is his last football game ever. So
becomes an open day.
Well, that we know of, right? So I'm interested because all year you look at Oklahoma and the game and even his Heisman Trophy, he was able to elude defenses based on his speed. And when you go up against an Alabama who, guess what? They're equally as fast as you. That's sort of the thing that scares me. The thing that you can say, they've won games because their defense is terrible. They've won games scoring 55 points, scoring whatever. So he is going to have to, Kyler Murray, that is, for Oklahoma's offense, is going to have to put up an absurd amount of points. I mean, the guy threw 40 touchdowns or had 40 touchdowns. Passed through 40 touchdowns. So, I mean, you're going to have to put up some huge numbers against Alabama's defense, who just doesn't give up huge numbers.
Yeah.
When was the last time Alabama let up more than, 30?
Did they this year?
They did, yeah, against Arkansas, but it was 65-31. So, but you know what I'm saying? Like, this team just one NFL star leaves and another one fills the spot. And one NFL star leaves, it's a factory. It's just a factory of just NFL talent, NFL talent, NFL talent, NFL talent. Guess what? NFL talent. Oh, we got a quarterback who's undefeated, has only lost one game in his career. Guess what? Our backup's better. Boom, national championship. Boom, undefeated season. Like, it's just a factory, right?
I don't think it's too far to stretch that this is going to probably be the first year that the 1 seed wins the college football playoff national championship.
Well, yeah, and even if Tua gets hurt, I mean, Jalen Hurts proved,
proved it. Yeah.
I'm fucking. I lost 1 game my entire career. Like, I can win 2, bud. So, yeah, I mean, I think I honestly am yes, Alabama, but I'm excited to see if Kyler Murray can do something, do anything, be exciting, and be.
Come on.
I mean, this is why he came back to school, Jordy. He said I came back to Oklahoma, or I'm playing football. The only reason I'm playing football is to win a national championship. That's what he said. He said that's the only reason why he's playing. So after watching what Baker did last year in the playoffs, I mean, is it that far of a stretch to say that Kyler's going to try and outdo Baker just like he did all year? Is it that far of a stretch to say that he'll actually be able to outrun some of the Alabama defensive guys who's finally healthy for the first time all year. Is it fair to say that this kid who won the Heisman is going to be able to put up 40 points for Oklahoma against an Alabama team who probably hasn't given up 40 since a video game played against them 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair assessment.
But yeah, ultimately Alabama Clemson for me, just because 3 years in a row, but it feels different than
4 years in a row. 3 of the last 4 is the national championship game.
Right. It just feels different from Warriors, Cavs, and all that we've seen. So, I'm. It's different because the story. It's different because the stories are different, right? It's not the same guys. It's Trevor Lawrence. It's now it's
That's why you're not upset about it like somebody might have been about Warriors Cavs for 4 years. Is that it's not still LeBron versus Steph. It's not, but it's instead it's not. It's just different people, and there's a new narrative every year. It's the margin of error is so much thinner in college football than anything else.
Yeah, and it's like people get mad at the Patriots, but guess what? It's different guys every year. Tom Brady has had zero. He had 1 year or 2 years. He had a Hall of Fame wide receiver, and guess what he did? He put up the most amount of touchdowns, the most amount of yards, the best completion percentage. Randy Moss had the best individual receiving touchdown performances. Like, you give him 1 year with a good receiver, and guess what? They go perfect. They go undefeated. So it's like, that's what makes the Patriots great, is that just like Alabama, they do. I mean, Alabama's different because Alabama does it with the best players in the country, but it's just a factory for them. And with the Patriots, it's just you have the best quarterback of all time, and with the Cavaliers, you have LeBron James, who's the best in the game right now, and everyone else is just filler. And that's the same thing with the Patriots, and that's boring. And I get it, but this is exciting because you get Clemson. You get a true freshman quarterback. You get a running back who's second year. Again, true freshman. So this is his second year, and then you get Alabama with Tua and Kyler Murray, who's literally his only year playing football. It's just
yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun to watch, and it's great that it's not on New Year's Eve, so I can actually sit down and watch it either at my house or at a bar, and I don't have to worry about being present on New Year's Eve with people or being social. I can just sit down and watch football.
Yeah.
And then, Greg, go right into week 17 of the NFL season.
I mean, what a transition. What a transition.
This week 17, Greg, might be the most busy week 17 I can remember in a long time, because there's a lot of seeding still up in the air, especially in the AFC, but open spots in the NFC, division titles to be won. It's pretty intense. I'm actually pretty excited to watch it. This is one of the weekends I don't have Red Zone. I usually go over to a friend's house. It's one I'm probably gonna go. I can't even, because the Eagles are still hanging in there. They couldn't, and if they end up winning, I wouldn't care. But if they lose, it's one of those. I wish I could have had this day to relish in the busy week 17. But fingers crossed that they end up winning. I mean, I'm going to a bar, I know that, with some buddies, so hopefully they have the other games on so we can look from one TV to another during commercials. But instead of my hecticness, Greg, what have your thoughts been? The Patriots. We haven't gotten to talk to you all year. What? In a quote unquote down year where you've already won the division again, but you might not have a bye. What are your thoughts?
Well, to be clear, they're in a bye right now. They have to win to maintain the bye. They have a shot. At home field throughout, but right now we're just hoping for a bye, especially because they look terrible on the road. So a home field throughout would be nice, but we're hoping for a bye. Honestly, Jordy, it's a team that doesn't have an identity, and what I mean by that is, so their defense is their defense, like it has been the last couple of years, good enough, and Well, maybe not good enough, but they're going to be what they're going to be. They're going to be let up points and let up stuff, and normally the offense is consistent enough to put up to put up points consistently that the other team's going to pass. And then when the defense knows the other team's going to pass, what do? They drop back in zone, or their pass rushers can go right at it. So this year's defense has had to actually deal with offenses from opposing teams being able to run their full playbook because the Patriots offense has been anything but good. And by that I mean simply, yes, Tom Brady is still having his good numbers, not MVP like last year, sure, but no Edelman for the first 4 games. They plugged and played some wide receivers there. Then there were some injuries with Gronk and Edelman and Hogan, and then then you had Cordell Patterson being your starting running back for a game, and then you had Josh Gordon join, and Josh Gordon was great for the team, great for Tom Brady for a little bit. They had a great little run there, and then they went to Miami, and that bullshit happened. And if that didn't happen, Jordy, you're talking about an 11-4 team.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll give Pittsburgh the win. Whatever, you make me feel good. But if Miami Miracle doesn't happen, the Patriots are probably a little more focused because they're not like answering questions about the dumbass Miami Miracle, and they're not stunned by that dumbass loss they had. You know what I mean? So there's a possibility that they win that game, just based on actually being able to focus on the Steelers as opposed to talking about what happened the week before. So for me, that loss really solidified, and I've been saying to you all year, not that the Patriots will be good and be good and be good, but definitely not their year. Now, personally, Jordy, personally, there's a streak. There's a streak that is sort of on. That has a chance to be broken.
Before you get to that streak, I wanted to give you a note on the Patriots.
Well, okay.
The Patriots' strength of victory, which is a stat that is basically just the average of all the winning percentages of teams they've beaten, is 513. Better than their strength of schedule. It's a little under 500, as you might imagine, for any team. It's tough to be over 500 if you're an over 500 team. The Ravens are one of the few teams in the playoff hunt that have a strength of schedule at 500. The Patriots are the only team with one over 500 or anywhere even close to that number. It is 513. Do you want to know who the closest is of any playoff team in the hunt?
Is this a good thing?
This is a good thing. It means you beat good teams.
Yes.
You lost to shit teams, but it means you beat good teams.
I was gonna get to that, the loss of shit teams, but go ahead.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though, is that you beat good teams. The closest team of any team in the hunt is the Eagles. In the AFC, it's not even close. The closest team to them in strength of victory is the Tennessee Titans at 467. So you're a full, almost a half a percentage or 50 points ahead of them. But what that means, though, is that you're good at beating good teams. You might not be good at beating the bad teams, but you're good at beating good teams. So even if you don't, by some crazy
I'm not on the Patriots.
Beats you, and you don't get the bye. I think you're going to be fine, at least for a couple rounds.
I'm not.
You beat the Chiefs already. You beat the Texans, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and you didn't have to play the Ravens. You lost to the Steelers. By the way, did it piss you off as much as it pissed me? Completely third-party bystander when Jim Nantz said, "Oh, that is a catch," when Jesse James had his first catch in the game against the Patriots a couple weeks ago.
I mean, Jordy, I'm glad you picked up on it because the Patriots and Patriot fans have been dealing with this BS for years and years and years. Yeah. They hate us because they ain't us.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you look at the Patriots, Jordy, they lost to stupid-ass, dumbass teams, right? Like the Patriots are playing the Jets this week.
Yep.
Okay? The Jets, how many wins do the Jets have?
4. They're 4-11.
Okay? The Jets beat the Lions. One of the Patriots' 5 losses was to who?
The Lions.
You guessed it, the Lions. Okay, let's go back to the Jets. One of their 4 wins. They didn't play the Patriots. Did not play the Broncos, so you can get that. Their other win, versus the Colts. Patriots didn't play them, but
The Patriots beat them, right?
what?
The
Oh,
Patriots beat the Colts.
sorry. The
Thursday
Patriots.
night.
The Patriots did beat the Colts. Sorry, the Patriots did beat the Colts. But the Patriots lost the Titans. Got spanked by the Titans, and the Jets lost the Titans by like 4 points. Okay, both on the road there. The Patriots lost the Dolphins, and the Jets turned around and lost the Dolphins again. Close game, close game. But the point is
The
that
Bears lost to the Dolphins, so you guys have that in common.
yeah. So the point being that this isn't. I mean, we'll see, but I mean, let's win this weekend. Let's go out on top, get the 11th win, and hopefully Kansas City and the Chargers lose. The Patriots can get home field throughout, but we'll just settle for a bye at this point. With a win, we'll secure that. Jordy,
You want me to get scenarios before you do your streak?
no. Let's
Conferences. Okay.
let me do streak first, Jordy. It involves quarterbacks. It involves the AFC.
Oh.
So this is now I just gave it away. But what streak is on the line here?
Is it Big Ben in the playoffs?
It's Tom Brady, Big Ben or Peyton Manning, and Joe Flacco, the 4 quarterbacks since
the AFC Championship game.
Since 2001, the 4 quarterbacks.
Oh no!
The 4 quarterbacks to be in the Super Bowl for the AFC. There's only been 4 quarterbacks since 2001. 4 quarterbacks.
And it's only possible that you get 2 of them in the playoffs.
And Joe Flacco's not even the starter. So does that really count if he goes to the Super Bowl?
It counts. I don't know.
There's the streak is basically Tom Brady has to make it just to keep it alive, or Lamar Jackson has to get hurt, which would be unfortunate, and we're not rooting for injuries.
No.
But Flacco would have to come in and be the starter just to keep the streak alive.
Do you think, though, because the Browns are just playing they're in no man's land in terms of a pick. They're going to get somewhere mid-first round pick. Do you think, though, that they're going to come out swinging against the Ravens and the Steelers pull it out against the Bengals and get the 4th seed?
So
that's how the Steelers make the playoffs. They can only win the division with the Ravens loss and them beating Cincinnati.
So Cleveland has a shot at
8-7-1.
A winning season.
500.
Yeah, exactly. Being above 500, a winning season. So yes, I do think Cleveland will 100% play hard because again, like I said, their first winning season in how long? Now,
07? Isn't that the last time they made the playoffs?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, is Pittsburgh playing? Oh, they're at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They set that up so that all games that have implications with one another play at the same time. That's why the Cowboys-Giants is at 1, but Eagles-Redskins is at 4:30 because the Eagles-Redskins is linked to the Bears-Vikings and to the Rams and all that sort of stuff.
Right. So let's go through AFC, like you said, playoff scenarios. Kansas City and the Chargers, both 11-4. Kansas City loses and the Chargers win. Chargers take over first place and clinch home field throughout the playoffs. Crazy to think about. Kansas City is playing Oakland, and the Chargers are playing Denver. Jordy, any upset you see happening in either one of those games?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the Raiders are really – I don't think they have any shot at beating the Chiefs, even if the Chiefs are playing for just a regular mid-season game. I think they're going to probably get up high on this team. I don't think the Raiders can keep up at any sort of – pace that the Chiefs could do for even a half. So I think they get up enough, maybe through into the third quarter, maybe through 3 quarters. Then they finally sit Mahomes, Hill, all those guys. And I don't, maybe the Broncos are playing for something. I don't know. I don't see anything there that would make me think the Chargers would blow this. I think they win. Maybe if they see the score at halftime, maybe they sit Phillip Rivers. And they end up just they don't give a shit because they can't.
The Raiders did just beat the Broncos.
That's true. They did.
Now,
but my point being is that if the Chargers see the score at halftime that the Chiefs are up big, they figure, all right, let's just sit Phillip Rivers. Let's say fuck it.
there's
Take the 5.
there's rumors going out there that the Denver Broncos are going to fire their coach, so this could be his potential last game, which means players are
playing for the coach. Oh, that's a big
big but
factor.
Also, yeah,
can't quantify it.
Yeah, also playing for their jobs.
That's true.
So
I mean, the GM picked him. The GM might like him. So who knows?
So yeah. I mean, I don't see an upset either, but I'm hoping both teams lose because we know the Patriots scenario. They win, they get first round bye and lock up the 2 seed. They win and lost by both those teams. They get home field throughout. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Houston Texans, they've locked their spot in. They could jump to the 2 seed and a bye if the Patriots lose.
Well, they have not locked it in. They're not officially AFC South champions. They still need to win.
Oh.
Yeah, so the AFC South gets really interesting because if they lose, then the Sunday Night Football game between the Titans and the Colts gets very interesting because not only would the winner get into the playoffs, but if the Titans win, they get or if the Texans lose, the winner of that game wins the division. And further, if the Texans lose, the Patriots lose, and the Ravens lose, which I already said is highly possible, the Titans could get a first round bye.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the Texans are in the playoffs, but they are not locked in for the division. They could be a 10-win 6 seed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is possible.
All right.
As would be the Titans the Titans Colts winner, as long as that doesn't end in a tie.
So we talked about that. The Colts Titans are playing basically win and you're in, or 100% playing win and you're in, and that is in Indy.
No, it's in Tennessee. It's in Nashville.
Even cooler. Even cooler.
Yeah. And how many shots do you think we're gonna get of like honky tonk bars or live music shots? Do you think it's going to be higher in the Music City Bowl or on Sunday Night Football? Is there a prop bet for this?
If anything, I think the Music City Bowl would win that, but you never know. And what do you think about
Collinsworth with the trombone? I think that'd be hilarious. He rolls in, he doesn't slide in. Well, because he's a big lanky dude with a big lanky trombone. I think that'd be hysterical.
Agreed. But if you saw, the whole town is embracing the Titans bit that the team did,
right.
And they lined up and did the cheerleading thing across that bridge and the rolling and all that. So,
do the slide during warm-ups? The We Are the Titans, the Mighty Mighty Titans.
Yes.
Oh man.
Sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It could be Andrew Luck, tough environment for him. But yeah, when you're in, scary team to face off in the playoffs. And Baltimore being the 4 seed, they win, they're in, they lose, and the Steelers win.
Yeah. I don't have scenarios for seeding. I don't know if it's locked in that the Titans or the Texans would get that if the Texans lose, Ravens win. I don't know if that's locked in for seeding of 3 versus 4. Did they play each other? I'm checking to see if they played each other this year. Because that's also one, too, that could have of who ends up playing the Chargers, if it's going to be Ravens, Steelers, or if the Texans have a chance of doing this. Or I guess, no, if they lose, then it would be Titans. It would be Titans. Colts would be 10-6. Yeah, I guess there's a lot to be thrown out there of all the different seedings. Yeah, Greg, this is it's wide open in terms of all the different seedings here.
Yeah, the AFC is a mess, but anyway, Jordy. End of the day, 1:00 matchups, AFC 4:00 matchups outside of Indy, Tennessee, being the 8 p.m. winner takes all. What's the matchup you're most looking forward to, AFC?
AFC matchup I'm looking forward to most of all is probably Browns-Ravens. I think this might be the best game of the day.
Yep.
Because I think Baker Mayfield's he's on a revenge tour to just show everybody, hey, Hugh Jackson kind of fucked us. He didn't like me. He didn't like the rest of this team. Nick Chubb's been having a stellar year. He's 28 yards from 1,000. Baker Mayfield's been having a hell of a year. He's almost at 3,500 yards, and he didn't play how many games to start the year?
Wait. You think Hugh Jackson didn't like Baker?
Isn't that why he didn't play him? He didn't like him, and that's why Baker stared him down last week?
Did someone say that, or are you just guessing?
I'm just guessing, but
did you watch the Hard Knocks? He liked them.
The cameras were on. We don't know what it was like when the cameras were off.
Right. No, I honestly think the biggest difference is Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb didn't really get the ball as much when Hugh was here and the offensive coordinator were there. And then once they switched,
yeah, that's true.
He got the ball and he sort of got the start and sort of sparked that offense because the run game really led to everything else. Because, Tyrod Taylor is just an older version of Baker Mayfield. Well, that's an aggressive statement. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. He's good enough to whatever. But the plan was never to have Baker start right away. I feel like nowadays most people ease their quarterbacks in anyway. So, but I think Baker Mayfield specifically said he was upset with Hugh Jackson because the quote was, if I have this correctly, he said, "You asked for us to play for you one week, and then turn around the next week and go sign with the division rival."
Mm-hmm.
So
it's more of the signing of the Bengals,
right? So it was more of Baker feels like, he claims to be a Browns ride or die, and this team ride or die, and we have to earn our brown stripe and all that bullshit. But then the next day, you turn around and sign with our biggest rival.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Right. So that I think was the big thing there. But yeah, no, that's a great little matchup, Jordy, for Cleveland and Baltimore. Good choice.
Yeah.
Give me the NFC playoff scenarios just for in and out of the playoffs. We'll get to seeding scenarios after.
Well, so the NFC is very simple. It's all intertwined. So the buys at least go into the two teams that have not that are fighting for one last spot. The Rams can clinch a first round bye with a win or Chicago loss. Reason I bring that up, Chicago is playing the Vikings. The Bears get a first round bye if they win and LA loses. On the flip side, if the Vikings win, they're in. But if they lose, it opens up the door for the Eagles to get into the playoffs if they beat the Washington Redskins. All three of those games are at 425. So for all intents and purposes, the 1 o'clock slate in the NFC does not really matter that much.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so you're saying Minnesota, Philly, and Washington all have a chance?
No, so Washington's out. The Eagles and the Vikings are the only two teams that are in the hunt for the last spot in the NFC. The 1 seed is locked up. The Saints have locked up home field because they beat the Rams. The Rams and the Bears are fighting for the 2 seed. Whoever doesn't get it gets the 3 because the Cowboys are locked into the 4. The Seahawks, I believe, are locked into the 5. Because I think even if they lose, I think by simply just conference record, I think they have that over the Eagles. They would be 9-5 in that, or 7-5 within the NFC, and the Eagles would be 6-6 if the Eagles got into the playoffs. I think if the Seahawks lose and the Vikings win, then the Vikings get the 5 and the Seahawks would get the 6. So we'll see what the Seahawks want to do there. But yeah, it's the Minnesota and the Eagles fighting for that last spot, though.
Okay. So you think Minnesota Miracle again? Or you think Philly Nick Foles pulls it out?
I mean, I think Nick Foles can pull it out against the Redskins. I think since they lost Alex Smith, they haven't really been anything, that scary. Their defense is still pretty solid, but I think the way that the offense has been humming since Foles took over for the injured Wentz, I think they've looked fine enough. They haven't been that great on the road, but I say that, and the last time they were on the road, they beat the Rams in LA. So we'll see what happens. It's supposed to rain down in Landover, Maryland, so you're going to see a lot of Darren Sproles. You're going to see a lot of Josh Adams, a lot of shorter passes, which is what Nick Foles thrived in during his first stint in Philadelphia. So we'll see what the Redskins defense can do there. What it really comes down to is, do the Bears try to go for the bye? You think they would, or at least for a half they do, and kind of look over and see what the Rams do. They're playing the 49ers. And then maybe they sit their guys. Same scenario we were talking about before with the Chargers. If they see that the Rams are up big against the 49ers, do they want to sit their guys and just say, well, let's let Minnesota get into the playoffs, and we're not going to get this bye. Why let Trubisky or anybody else get hurt when we have a playoff game to go out and win next week? Ironically, it would probably be against the Vikings, but they got to kind of. I mean, there's a little bit of scoreboard watching there.
I hear you. I think the bigger thing for the Bears would be Trubisky, right? Keeping him healthy.
Exactly.
Regardless of the bye, I think he would be the reason, because with his shoulder and all that, I think if anything,
right.
That's the biggest question mark to me, is how long he plays and if he plays, and how important is the bye with his health, right? So
yeah, that's probably the biggest storyline coming into the day.
Because the Saints locked up the bye, and the Rams are playing who?
Saints have locked up home field, so they're not moving anywhere. They're the 1 seed. The Rams are playing the 49ers.
Yeah. There's no way. So that's the thing, is you can go into the game saying there's no way the 49ers win that game, and we'll just sit Trubisky. But I mean, you never know. You never know. The Raiders beat the Broncos last week, so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, and they've won a game with their backup, so.
Yeah, and the Eagles beat the Patriots, so you never know.
Yeah. I mean, Big Dick Nick, man, it's hard to really defend yourself against him. Ask LA.
So
I guess you could also Tampa Bay because they beat them, but
so yeah, no.
A lot of those games you could have wished you had back.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wish a couple of them back, but yeah, no, I mean, I mean, the big thing I think that is interesting here is Minnesota, because Minnesota, if everything stands pat, the first round matchup is Bears Minnesota.
Yep.
So it could almost be a statement for Minnesota to send to the Bears, or the Bears to send to Minnesota. So, it could be one of those things where maybe the Bears want to play Minnesota and will, I don't want to say lose on purpose, but sort of, okay, give us your best shot. We'll see what plays you're going to run for next week. Here's a hotel. We'll buy it for you now.
On the flip side of it, this game's in Minnesota, whereas they're going to go back to Chicago, where the Bears had a very convincing win over the Vikings, 6 weeks ago in week 11. So, I mean, sure, you can say, all right, here's the key to your hotel room. We'll see you, on the practice field. But I don't know. I mean, changing locations after a week. I think the thing with the Vikings is that after that dud of a Monday night game they put up against the Seahawks, where they looked like they were left for dead and that they were going to just completely tailspin their way out of the playoffs, they come back, they thwomp on the Dolphins, and then their defense really stepped up this past weekend, or last week rather, against Detroit, and now here they sit with a playoff berth really on their doorstep. And I think when you look back at this Minnesota Vikings team that had so much hype coming into it to start the year, where they beat the 49ers team still with Jimmy G, they tie the Packers, which, I mean, that should have been the first sign of it. But then they come out, they lose to the Bills, they lose to the Rams. I mean, the start of their season really is probably where you have to think, what happened here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. especially because you go out and you sign a guy or a quarterback in someone that you thought would be better than Case Keenum, and in theory, record-wise, they're worse, right? So you spent all this money on a guy who simply did not have as good of a year record-wise as they did last year. So, it'd be interesting to say the least. And the Eagles, if somehow they make the playoffs because of fucking Nick Foles, I mean, you just trade Carson Wentz tomorrow.
No. You're big overreaction there. But I do want to give you this stat, Greg. Kirk Cousins, you know what his record is against teams that are above 500?
In career or this year?
Career. This year, it's not much better than the career.
Well, that's a good indicator. So I have no idea. What is it?
His record against teams that are above 500, his career is 4-23.
4-23.
Yeah.
That's miserable.
It's awful. It is awful. And think about that. You mentioned it when we first started talking about them. Minnesota Miracle was one of those wins. Or no, it was the Vikings win. I forgot he was with the Redskins last year. But, I mean, he really, you have to wonder, was that investment worth it? I mean, even if they make the playoffs and then he puts up a dud against the Bears in the first round in a week and a half when we look at wild card weekend, I mean, you have to wonder, did they overpay? Did they get themselves trapped in some sort of scenario where now because of the salary cap, their defense might start to, fall apart a little bit like we thought we were going to see with Seattle, and much more so, or what we thought it could have really been with Seattle, I should say.
Every team was going to overpay for Cousins because he just wanted an absurd amount of money. That was his thing going into the offseason, was that he wanted an absurd amount of money for a quarterback who wasn't worth it.
Yeah, every year. Every year he proved himself to the Redskins that he was worth getting the deal because he kept getting franchise tag. But I don't know. I mean,
was he worth it? That's why they didn't want to pay him, because was he worth it?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go back to strength of victory though, Greg. The Vikings have even wider margin of a worse strength of victory than the Patriots do of the best strength of victory. You want to know what theirs is? 354. Their 8 wins, their average opponent's winning percentage is 354. The next team is the Bears at 406, and a lot of that has to do with the Lions being 5-10. But that is abysmal. And they both played the fucking Cardinals, so that doesn't help you either. But
no. Yeah, no, that's
and the 49ers, but it's pretty bad.
Now, do you fire the coach?
I don't know.
Right now they're caught in the Flyers scenario. They're caught in that good enough, but not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, their defense has been good enough. It's a weird thing with I guess their quarterback play is kind of like the Flyers goalies play. If we're going to use this level, they have quarterback play that's been good enough, but to get them so far, but not good enough to get them over the hump.
Well, you think about it. You got Dalvin Cook, who has proven to be a top 10 running back.
Yeah.
You got Diggs and Thielen, who are right up there you could argue Diggs is up in the conversation with the best wide.
I'd say they're both in wideouts. Is that stretching too far?
They're both what?
Top 10 wideouts.
Top 10 might be stretching just because.
Top 15.
I mean, well. Anyway, I would say Cooks for sure. Thielen, I don't know. I mean that's good. That's a good argument. You're right. You could argue it. Sure.
They're both consistent.
But again, you talk about Odell Beckham, you talk about Antonio Brown, you talk about Smith-Schuster, you talk about there are guys out there who, I mean, Diggs. I would say Brandon Cooks. I would say Diggs in the conversation. Thielen, I think, is more of a struggle to get in the top 15, but you never know. Yeah, so they have offensive weapons. They have an offensive line. Their defense is what they're traditionally known for, quote unquote. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Jordy, but I mean, it might be time to reevaluate the coach, or like you said, reevaluate the quarterback. Maybe take a flyer out on Nick Foles, or take a flyer out on Carson Wentz, because the Eagles have a problem, and it starts at quarterback.
Now you're just trying to troll me. I do want to remind you, though, that it's because of the Vikings' quarterback problems. The Eagles would eventually have the draft picks to win the Super Bowl. So the Vikings helped out a lot there with trading for good old Sammy B.
What a world we live in. So NFC matchup of the week that you're looking forward to, Jordy.
Mine's biased. Mine's biased. It's the Eagles Redskins. I want to see the Eagles win, but probably going objective here. Probably Bears Vikings. See how that goes.
I was gonna say you have to say Bears Vikings.
Yeah, because that's what it all depends on. But I do want to see the Eagles win, so I'm gonna be watching that. But Bears Vikings.
You have to say Bears Vikings just because of two playoff teams, two teams that even if the Vikings don't make it, they're still considered a playoff team, or an 8.
They're above 500. They've locked that in because they're 8-6-1. No matter what, if they win or lose.
They're also right now they're a playoff team, so it's two playoff teams as of now.
Yeah.
Now there's no chance the Redskins if Alex Smith is still playing, the Redskins win, or the Redskins are in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question to look at, right? Because he got hurt in week 12. He got right before Thanksgiving, week 11. So let's just look at their schedule there of who they had. He got hurt. I think it was against the Texans. Then they go in, they play the Cowboys. Maybe they pull that out. They only lost by 8 points. They lose to the Eagles on Monday Night Football. They get spanked by the Giants. They beat the Jaguars. And then they lose to the Titans in Nashville, which it seemed like every NFC East team played in Nashville this year. But I know that's not true. I think the Giants and Cowboys hosted the Titans. But who knows? I mean, they were right in the driver's seat, Craig, when they lost Alex Smith. They were right there. They were 6-4 by losing to the Texans. Even if they don't lose, even if they still lose that game, I think they could have gone out and beaten the Cowboys. That Eagles game becomes a lot more intriguing than the Eagles just pulling away with it in the second half. I don't think they lose to the Giants. They probably still beat the Jags. And then that Titans game probably becomes one of the most intriguing matchups on the NFL slate last Saturday.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, because Colt McCoy came in halfway through that first game, so they could have won that game too, right?
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. It was about halfway through the game.
So, I mean, you're looking at a team that's 3 losses in the last 4 weeks. So you're looking at a team
that's 5 of their last 6 games.
Right. So even more. So you're looking at
they went from 6-3 to 7-8.
Yeah. So 6-3, you're looking at let's say they win 3 of those games, or 4. Let's just say they win 3 instead of 1. You're at 9, right? And you're 9-6. You're ahead of the Cowboys, and you're in the playoffs.
You're 9. Well, it depends on if they beat the Cowboys or not. I think because the Cowboys, by beating the Eagles and Giants, or the Eagles twice, and they're playing the Giants for the last time this weekend.
Okay. So by the way, you're 9-6. You're tied for you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, you'd be in the playoffs. You'd be right there with the Seahawks.
Right.
Depending on where the Eagles are, they might still be in it. And that game might be the Sunday Night Football game instead of Titans Colts. But no, it's really intriguing of what happens.
So answering this question, why does Seattle clinch at 9-6, but if the Eagles win, they'd be 9-7, and Seattle loses, they'd be 9-7?
I think I went over this before, but if they're both 9-7, their conference records, I think, is what come into play because they didn't play each other. And the Seahawks would be 7-5 in the NFC, and the Eagles would be 66. I think is what the tiebreaker is, because I think then it goes to common opponents because the Seahawks play the Rams twice. I don't know. I think maybe that's why it goes. It's below conference record. I'd have to look at what the full list of tiebreakers are.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, I just found it interesting to me. Anywho, I mean, yeah. Anywho, so yeah, Jordy. I mean, so Seattle and Dallas, they're both playing for hosting, right? Like if Dallas loses, they go on the road.
No, Dallas clinches their division, so they get a home game.
Okay, got it. No matter what, got it.
Seattle, I think they win, they're going to Dallas. If they lose, it might become some intriguing. They lose, Minnesota wins. Seattle would go to the 3 seed, presumably the Bears. No, it would be the Bears because the Vikings would have beaten them. So if Seattle loses and the Vikings win, it's Seahawks, Bears, Cowboys, Vikings, with the Rams as the 2 seed and the Saints as the 1.
So you're Dallas. Are you sitting Zeke Elliott?
Yeah, you're sitting everybody. Their game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No.
Not Cole Beasley. That motherfucker will play.
He already said that?
No, I'm just saying he's like a fourth wide receiver. He's playing.
Yeah.
All right, Brady. So I know you don't want to predict without knowing who's in, but if I gun to your head today, who represents the NFC? Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl?
I'd say it'd be Pat Saints. If you put a gun to my head.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
The Chiefs have been so inconsistent. I mean, granted, you can say that now that they've lost 2 games in a row, but I think the bright lights in the playoffs, they might win a game. They might get to the AFC Championship, but I don't know, even if the Patriots have to go to Kansas City, that it gives the Chiefs the win. I think the Pats just use experience and the Patriot way to get it done. Same thing with Houston. I think especially if they're the 3 seed, I think even if they somehow were able to pull, I guess they'd have to play the Patriots in the second round. But I just think that would get to them, especially going up to New England when they're a dome team from Houston. That's tough, I just think as much as you want to, I was joking that was a down year for the Pats. I think it's still until they really get really shown up. It's their conference to lose, in my opinion, every year.
Yeah, I mean that'd be ultimate sweet revenge for the Patriots in terms of beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead after Trent Dilfer declared them dead, right?
Yeah. So, you just have him and Belichick the trophy, and Belichick slams him in the head with it.
Right? I mean, that'd be sweet redemption. That'd be sweet redemption. I like the pick. The reason why I'm out on the Rams is just because they.
I said the Saints, not the Rams.
I know. I'm talking about. I'm agreeing with you. The reason why I'm out on the Rams is because, I mean, you look at any big game they played. They beat the Chiefs in a shootout. They lost to those Saints in a shootout. They beat the Seahawks twice, who are a playoff team. Or no, sorry. Yeah, they beat the Seahawks twice, who are a playoff team.
They couldn't get it in Chicago, which I think that's more telling than losing to the Eagles at home, because that's like a trap game. You weren't expecting the Eagles to come out with as much fight as you did. And going to New Orleans is just tough. But the Chicago loss is what's telling to me.
Yes and no, because Chicago's defense has been great all year, and you're on the road in a cold weather environment. And Jared Goff went to school in California and hates cold weather. So, I mean, they're not going to be playing another cold weather game for the rest of the year. So, I mean, it might prove out well for them. I think it really comes down to the Rams. It comes down to their defense, because how many shootouts can you win,
No, that's a really good point. And I think in New Orleans, that's a place for shootout. If you're a shootout team, that's where you go to die, especially against this Saints team that uses a dynamic running back that can both run it down your throat and go out wide, both in terms of swing passes and out of the slot like Kamara can, that really can pick apart a team like that. And Breeze loves that kind of an environment. And that's anytime you have a team game, whether it's Fox, CBS, or NBC's top crews, that's what they talk about, of slowing this game down, not letting the Saints control the pace of it, and really not letting Breeze get into that that trying to think of a pitcher who does not wait in between pitches, but I'm not, so I'm just going to roll with it. But that high, fast pace that Drew Brees likes to get into where he can just
Chris Sale. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, I was going to use Mark Burley. But that's a little bit of a dated reference. So that's why I had to trip over myself there. Remember him?
Yeah.
Perfect. But
Kurt
anyway.
Schilling.
Yeah, Kurt, that's actually a good one.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if we're allowed to recognize Kurt Schilling anymore.
World Series champion with the Red Sox, so I'm going to recognize him.
All right. Two-time. You're for two-time.
Two-time. But yeah, no. So all right, I like the picks. Jordy, before we do a quick two-line icing,
blue line icing.
Blue line icing. Anything else you want to wrap up? NFL?
No, I think this season's been great. I love the fact that the parity conversation has really proven that it's not dead in the NFL. I think the Patriots being 10-5 and they might have a chance of getting home field. They might not even get a bye. That whole thing, I think that helps with it. I think the fact that the Chargers are right there, the Titans, after looking like they were dead in a rebuild year where they had a new coach, they just, they made the playoffs last year, but it didn't look like it did them any good.
And Mariota was hurt in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, Mariota being hurt at the beginning of the year. The Ravens are back. The Steelers, I think them being down, I think it's an interesting storyline because it brings in a lot of different things of where do they go from there. The Browns being good. There are a lot of good storylines across the board in the NFL. Whereas, a lot of the last couple of years has been so much off the field stuff. Not that there wasn't this year. There certainly was a lot of terrible off the field storylines that came about as the year went on. But I think this year is definitely a positive in the history of the sport. And it's 99th season for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, hard to disagree with what you said. I don't know if I guess it really, it really is week to week who will win, right? It's not, like some of the
there's no guaranteed roll over and die game.
Well, and some of the teams that I guess you wouldn't expect. I don't know. You wouldn't expect the Saints to lose to their Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tampa Bay, right? You wouldn't expect, Tom Brady to lose to a rookie head coach on the road. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. It's sort of anybody's week to week. There's no real, throw expectations out the window, I guess.
No, totally agree with you. Let's do a little quick blue line icing, two line icing, something that rhymes with blue and two line icing.
I like blue line.
Greg, blue line icing, but I was trying to make a joke there. Greg, it's been about a month since we've talked NHL, and since then, obviously the Flyers have continued to fire their coach. There's been a lot of different storylines. The Hartford Whalers made their brief return the other night.
Yeah, beat the Bruins.
Yeah, they did beat the Bruins. What have your thoughts been, though? I mean, Tampa's starting to really claw their way out of it. Same with Toronto. The West is starting to look like they're just pummeling the shit out of each other. What have been your thoughts?
Yeah, Tampa's established themselves as a true fucking, just like last year. And Toronto's keeping pace, which is huge for them. The Bruins are finally healthy. Tonight's the first game back for Chara, DeBrusque. Bergeron came back yesterday. Kevin Miller came back today. So
McAvoy back too, right?
What?
Isn't McAvoy back?
Yeah, McAvoy came back probably 2 weeks ago, but they it's been injury riddled for them. And Tuukka has been, might as well be a Flyers goalie at this point. Hey-o, keep the gloves up.
Hey, Carter Hart's been looking a little pretty solid.
What, two games? That's it, or
3 games? 3 games. He's 2-1.
2-1. He lost the other game, huh?
Yeah, to Flyer killer in I won't say our friend, but our aged person, the dude that's our age, Cam Atkinson, who just murders the Flyers. I want to look up his specific numbers against Philly, but Cam Atkinson loves playing against the orange and black.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't?
Oh.
So, I mean, the storylines, the Sabres are going nowhere. Washington they're again leading their division, looking again like they're gonna make a little run here in the playoffs. Pittsburgh finally getting healthy, just like we talked about. They're gonna have a little run and they're gonna make a go for it. They'll be fine, like we talked about it.
The Rangers cooled off since last time we talked.
What'd you say?
Rangers cooled off since last time we talked. They're now in 5th in the Metropolitan.
Yeah, they're playing like a team who is in a rebuild and has a first-year coach. I mean, Calgary is still on a tear, despite losing their last 3. But San Jose, you figured they'd be a little better. Vegas is right there. Edmonton, since firing their coach, has done pretty well. So, it's and then moving obviously over to the other side of the West, Winnipeg, there, Predators, Colorado, and Dallas, where the teams you thought would be there. So while there's so much young talent in the league, and everyone talks about how good the young guys are and how it's sort of it's a fun, exciting league to watch right now.
Yeah.
The playoff teams as of now are looking similar to the same as last year, simply because that's how you're built. You're built with some of the best guys, and they're there for a couple of years. So, which is exciting for if you're a fan of those teams. But if you're someone like the Flyers, or so I guess what I'm saying is here's the thing: is there's outside of what I'm trying to say is outside of. Let's say outside of Anaheim, who's still in the playoffs, but outside of them, every team
they're right there.
Well, every team that's not in the playoffs, I would say, is super young and rebuilding.
Yeah, a lot more teams are embracing the tank. I think the only team that might not be still in tank mode might be the Devils, but they should be. Just because they've gotten a number of solid dudes, a number of high draft picks, and you just thought with most of that team coming back that they would be in a better position to be a higher seed than last year they were in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're beating up on the Bruins right now. So, this being Thursday night, but yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you.
Let me ask you this: you always use the Flyers as the example. When is it time to put Florida in that purgatory spot too? Because they're another team that's been, every year it seems like Florida's added another dude that's going to make them the team to beat, or a team to try to keep pace with Tampa, or a team to make the playoffs and be a playoff threat. I mean, they've won a playoff series a couple years ago, but they really haven't done a lot since then.
Well, the Panthers' biggest problem, Jordy, is Luongo, their contract they gave him.
Yeah.
They're spending so much money on him that they can't afford more than top 2 lines.
Yeah.
And even then, can you name me one player on the team who's not Luongo?
Alexander Barkov.
Nice. Anyone else?
Keith Yandel.
Nice. That's my point. That's my point, though. Like,
maybe another stud from BU.
But that's my point. Is that you're not going to win in this league, like you said. Maybe they should be the team, but you're not going to caught in limbo. But you're not going to win in this league without more than 2 guys that an average fan can name. And you're an above average fan, right? You're a guy who watches and goes to games, so you're an above average fan, and you still, and me too. I'm in the same boat. So it's just one of those things. No disrespect to the guys in their team. I know. They have Riley Nash, who used to be in the Bruins. They have a couple of players who used to be on the Bruins and were that sort of the 3rd and 4th line on the Bruins, and expecting to be first lines with the Panthers. So, we talked about them a couple weeks ago, but you're right. I think, yes, I'm agreeing with you. I think they, as well as the Flyers are the caught in limbo.
Yeah, I mean, the Flyers, though, they do have the prospects. They just need to get older. They're starting to come up. They're fine. The new GM, Chuck Fletcher, starting to bring him up. Things are looking good. Eventually, they'll look good.
Hey, listen, if you can win with young guys coming cycling in and out, like what the Bruins are doing now, and I mean, you could argue what the Penguins are doing now too, a little bit.
I mean, they still have Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, all of those guys.
I know, but Crosby's playing with two guys who were rookies last year.
Yeah, because he's one of the best players in the world, so he makes anybody look good.
That's what I'm saying. But like, you're not seeing Giroux play with rookies. You're not seeing. That's what I'm saying is that like, if the Penguins can do it while bringing up young guys, and same with the Lightning. You know, they have that huge second-year defenseman from last year who's gross and still there now. And the Bruins doing the same thing. I mean, the Sabres, everyone's on their team young, so it's not like they have like a base to do it with from before. But, I mean, if I was the Red Wings, here's the thing. If I was a team like the Red Wings who was in a rebuild mode and had young guys, but I wasn't in the hunt like Buffalo was, or I wasn't, you know, sort of my first year rebuild like Ottawa is,
yeah,
I'd be a little nervous right now because if Buffalo's proving anything, it's that, you know, maybe their young talent isn't as good as someone else who's rebuilding.
Well, that's the one thing that when we talk about like the Flyers and all their prospects, and as optimistic as I can be, whenever Morgan Frost finally comes up to the NHL or Carter Hart turns out to be the first solid goalie the Flyers have had in 25 years. Like the Sabres had a number 2 pick in Jack Eichel, who's an absolute stud. The Flyers have a number 2 pick in Nolan Patrick a couple years later, who not so much. You know, we're still waiting for him to be, you know, certified top 6 NHL talent. You know, I mean, it's not to the degree that basketball can be when you tank, where year after year there's some years where you get, you know, the next LeBron, you get the next, you know, whomever, and there's some years where you get a guy that turns out that his shoulder can't fucking function.
Markel
Hockey's not as bad. Yeah, you know who I was talking about. Hockey's not as bad, but it's, you know, there is still some of that degree. I mean, I guess there is in every sport, right? You know, there's some first round duds in the NFL, or first 1-1 studs, if you will, or studs and duds. Jesus Christ, I can't speak. But, you know, I feel like, you know, there's some level to that in hockey where, I mean, Detroit got what's his face, the Swedish guy last year, right? And you know, and I guess we're still waiting for what, you know, the Red Wings. Oh, yeah, thank you. I did not have his name in front of me.
Dahlin,
thank you. But still, you know, it really, you're right. If you're Detroit, you have to wonder how much longer of this do we have to suffer through before we finally start getting, you know, whatever we can back, and do we have to start dealing out pieces that we only get, you know, conditional picks for, and hope that those teams don't end up doing well, like, you know, or anything, you know, anything in that sort of, you know, stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting spot to be in because you're not getting to the point where there's the severe haves and have-nots type of scenario, although you could argue that about the Atlantic Division. But there's definitely something to behold of a team in a rebuild.
I mean, the Atlantic Division probably, you could argue, has the four of the top 6 teams in the NHL.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe 4 of the top 7 or 8. But still, they have 4 of the top.
7. I'd say 4 of 7.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, that's.
And that's if you include. That's how many teams do you include of the Western Conference? You know, I mean, the Predators are a little cold. I'd throw them up in there.
No, Winnipeg, Nashville, Calgary.
Yeah, Winnipeg's no question. I'd say Winnipeg's a top 3 team. It's right now. It's their conference to lose. They have to just get over that hump in the playoffs.
I mean, Calgary looks so good, Jordy. I don't know. I think I agree with you, but the way Calgary's built with that young speed and just they have the grit to match Winnipeg, but
Yeah.
you know, I guess Winnipeg's fast too, but I don't know, man.
No, Winnipeg's pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that obviously more.
That'd be a great matchup.
Podcast.
That'd be a great matchup. Yeah, Jordy. So they I'm not sure if you saw this, but they announced the captains for the 4 All-Star teams, which happen to be the 4 divisions. And the rules from last year were every team in the conference has to have at least one player on the team, and there's 8 people on the team total or something crazy like that.
Something like, no, it's I think 10 because I think there's a couple teams that get 2 players.
Right. Okay. So 10 players, and there's 8 teams, and 10 players, but then there's also 3 goalies. So, or 2 goalies. What is it?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. 10 players, 3 goalies.
2 goalies.
2 goalies. 2 goalies.
Yeah, because then there's 4 for the skills competition and all that. So yeah, so 10 players, 2 goalies, so it's 12 total, and you have to have 1 player from every team. So from the Atlantic, it was a surprise pick actually. It was Matthews from Toronto. Did you see this?
Okay. No, I did not see this. I'm pulling up now.
Okay. And then from the Metropolitan, which would be the Eastern Conference, it was obviously Alexander Ovechkin from the, like I said, Washington Capitals.
Hard not to be him.
Are you surprised by Matthews?
A little bit, but good for him.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, you'd figure. I mean, unless it's in Tampa, but you figure it would be
a member of the Lightning.
Yeah, you figure it'd be Stamkos like last year, or yeah. I mean, maybe Eichel.
Yeah, maybe Eichel. Eichel, though, would be in the same essence of probably why they picked the 4 captains they did, of going for young guys, and then probably one of the most recognizable names in hockey.
Right. So anyway, going back and then
point.
Yeah, good point. And then going over to the Western Conference, the Central Division for the Western Conference, representing them, surprise again, Nathan McKinnon, sort of surprise captain. I would have gone probably the guy from Winnipeg there, Line, but or I don't know, maybe one of the Predators, and then Connor McDavid for the Pacific and Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah. I think the only way they could have gotten this to be the most like social media buzzworthy captains is if you flip Subban in for McKinnon.
I think it was. I agree.
The other 3 are like. I mean, I guess like there's other members of the Maple Leafs who are much more social media savvy, like Mitch Marner or somebody like that. But like Matthews, American guy, one of the best players in the league. It seems like a slam dunk to throw him in. It's a surprising pick just objectively, but in terms of trying to get an exhibition weekend like NHL All-Star Weekend built up, almost like how probably they want to do what the NBA does and really build up this weekend, it seems like a pretty good idea.
Well, the NHL All-Star Game has been reinventing the All-Star Game for all the other sports. I mean, if you notice, they were the first ones to do like the fantasy draft, and the NFL followed suit, and then the NBA followed suit, and they've been doing this they've been the leaders for a while.
I think this is the 10th year with or 10-year anniversary of the first fantasy draft.
Yeah, so they're in San Jose this year. Now I think the captains were voted on by the fans, Jordy, but
yes, so that's where the controversy came from a couple years ago with John Scott.
Right.
And then they had to change the rules for him and all that sort of stuff.
So now are these 4 guys responsible for picking one player from every team, or what's
that? I'm not sure. I'm looking this up now.
What are the rules the next? Okay, the league's hockey operation department selects the remaining 40 players, 10 from each division, for the game.
Yeah, 6 forwards, 3 defensemen, 2 goalies, and then for the first time this year, there's a last man in ballot, just like there is for baseball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the fans do get another vote.
Nice. That's huge. So if you're picking one player from the Flyers, not necessarily the most popular, but who's the best this year? Who deserves it?
Drew is going to be the representative, and he should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me and the Bruins, I think it's Pasternak.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You
I
see
think
his Russian rights got acquired by CSK Moscow today.
really
Yeah, in case there's a lockout.
that's crazy. Oh, because
Yeah.
they're up for a CBA a new CBA this summer.
No, the CBA expires in 2022, but they can
Oh.
opt out of it in the summer of 2020.
Oh.
So just in case, they're they're making some moves.
I love it. No, So the reason why Bergeron's been hurt all year, and Pasternak's just been better than Marchand, for being honest.
I agree with that.
While Bergeron was out for 3 weeks, Krejci got to play with Pasternak, and Krejci ended up being the Eastern Conference Player of the Month or right up there in the conversation because of he had a point a game while Bergeron was out playing with Pasternak. So Krejci got to play with Pasternak, and Krejci had a bunch of assists and all that. So, for me, I think it's Pasternak if we have one and only representative. Any other? Yeah. Anything else in NHL, Jordy? Anything else you want to touch on before we end the blue line icing pod?
No, I wanted to just ask you on a quick surveillance of the two conferences and two divisions of who do you think do you think it's the Centrals to lose? But looking at the Atlantic is pretty stacked. And Austin Matthews isn't even the third. And granted, he was hurt for a bit, but he isn't even close to the highest player in terms of points for Toronto. You have Marner, you got Morgan Riley, who probably the other two players from their team. They have solid goalies they could pick out from. Obviously, Nikita Kucherov. But that the Central is pretty loaded as well.
So I think it is the Atlantic because all these teams, like you said, with the exception of maybe Florida, have young studs that they can build around and are in the process of rebuilding, like Ottawa. You can even argue Montreal is supposed to be rebuilding, but Claude Julien,
they're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, Claude Julien has them playing unbelievably that they're in the playoffs. So like, this division is set up for a while. Now the Central, like you said, the thing that's scary about the Central is their big names are at the bottom, right? Like St. Louis, Chicago, the historical names I should say are at the bottom, but and sort of those new teams like Winnipeg and Nashville at the top. But
well, think about it. Think about if this ops department, if Nathan McKinnon had his druthers, he'd have his whole line in of him, Rantanen, and Landeskog, who, by the way, are all top 10 in the Western Conference in points, with Rantanen and McKinnon at 59 and 60 points respectively in 37 games played. And then you get Mark Scheifele at 49. You get Blake Wheeler, his line mate, at 48 points. You get Kane at 44. Then you got a lot of Calgary players. You can't split it by division. You can only do it by conference. But then you get Grunland from Minnesota. You get Ryan O'Reilly, who's just a stud centerman. Trying to find some defensemen with points here, but you can Roman Josi, PK Subban. You got a lot of dudes probably from Nashville. Dustin Byfuglien, wow, he's almost at a point a game this year. Good for him. Yeah, I mean, I think it's Atlantic Central if you had to try to rank it, but you don't even have to. You don't even know what the matchups are going to be because they link the whole weekend together.
So that's why I think the problem is with this format is that like
the tournament, it's not round robin.
No, like the Avalanche, that whole line deserves to be up there because we were talking a month ago, they were leading the NHL in every single category.
Yep.
Including plus minus. So and obviously it's changed a little bit now, but like, they're deserving at least to get like a recognition or a nod of some sort. You could argue the same thing with Line and Wheeler and that whole line with Winnipeg and Calgary. I mean, Calgary, their top two lines are disgusting. I mean, having unbelievable years, and Giroux, obviously, not Giroux, sorry, Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey is the big name, but I mean, they have some talent too. So I don't know, it's interesting.
That's the one thing that does annoy me though about the NHL All-Star Game is because it's division locked in. that some teams. I guess it was the same number of players that got in when it was fantasy draft or East West, but it just seems so much more, I don't know, locked in because of the fact that it's divisions. Like there's some teams that only get one All-Star that it feels like maybe they have one or two because they're the only guys carrying the team. Like Taylor Hall, I don't even made the All-Star game last year, and he ended up being the MVP.
Well, I think it was that. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it is like I think the rule was put in place because so every team had to have one representative, which I'm not sure was the rule before.
Like when it was North America versus the world, was it every team had to have somebody?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I think that was only put in like when they went to this new format. Like I don't even think in the fantasy draft they had to have one from every team. I think that's something new just for the division.
Yeah. That's before the dark times for the Flyers, so I can't even name. I can name two players I think that made the All-Star team every year in the fantasy draft era.
Yeah, Lindros and
No, that's North America versus the world. Think about that, man. You had Lindros, Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, all those dudes in fucking Team North America. The Halls, Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah.
Against fucking Yager and a bunch of fucking other European dudes.
Salami.
Oh, Salami. America. Oh, man.
His name is Salami. Anyway, Jordy, this has been a super long pod.
I was joking with your joke. Yeah, this has been a great pod.
A long pod. I hope people stuck around. Let's give the people a bonus, something bonus. Maybe we'll give them like if anyone makes this point, send a text to Jordy
we can steal or homage to another podcast. Greg, what is the hashtag for this episode?
I want to say if people made it this far, I think they send you a text with hashtag salami spelled the way that you want it to be spelled.
Hashtag salami. Tweet at the Thunder blog with hashtag salami. Not everybody has my number, Greg. We're not giving it out.
Well, what I'm saying is you'll Venmo them X amount of dollars.
I don't have the cash to Venmo anybody.
All right.
Anything.
You and I will split the Venmo for X amount of dollars.
Yeah, X amount of for a player to be named later. Tweet at Thunder BLG hashtag salami, and we will know that you got this far.
I'm gonna be upset if no one tweets at you because we didn't put a monetary number on it.
X number of dollars and the player to be named later. Hashtag salami at Thunder BLG.
I'm willing to do $10.
I'm not. That is too rich for my blood.
I'm saying 5 between the two of us.
Still a little rich for my blood.
All right, 2.5 from you and 7.5 from me.
There doesn't need to be a monetary value. If you are still listening to this,
Starbucks gift card.
Hashtag salami. Hashtag Jordy is cheap. Tweet something at us. Some hashtag. One of those preferably.
When Jordy gets merchandise, you will be the first to receive it.
That I can fuck with. Well, let's start with at least you tweeting a hashtag at us. And by being a first hashtag person, you will get an item to be named later.
Nice. Speaking of apparel, I think we need to start getting some apparel for the Thunder Cup.
We do need, yes, for the Thunder Cup, we need to. I want to come up with logos, like how they do, like for each year, but it's a different logo, like how Survivor does it for every season, or like how the Challenge, if you watch that on MTV, they have a different logo for every season. We need to do that for Thunder Cups 1 and 2 retroactively, and then one for the third Thunder Cup.
I kind of like just having like the Ryder Cup is always the same logo. I kind of like just having one logo.
So you're fine then relating it back to the beginning of this, but the Super Bowl, how it now has one logo that it does, it just changes the Roman numeral versus the old where it had all these different logos?
No, the NFL is different. I'm talking about golf. I'm talking about keeping the history of the rich tradition of how the Masters is always the same and the Ryder Cup is just the little cup, and
US Open changes every year though.
But I'm talking about for a hat that someone can buy. Like I want to buy a winter beanie with Thunder Cup logo on it.
We need to get an official over-under of holes that Joe Tona quits on ballot that everybody can vote. There we can get some monetary action in, Greg. House always wins there.
an inside joke for those on the outside. Tweet at Jordy, and maybe he'll explain it to you via direct
Hashtag salami at ThunderBLG, and you can learn the origins of that joke.
Hashtag
more and more content coming your way if you tweet hashtag salami at ThunderBLG.
I'm in, and potential when Jordy finally does the first merchandise,
Yeah,
or what have you. You're the first one on the list after me. And
I have a 2018 wrap up / little serious note from me that I have to write before 2019 actually gets flipped to. Similar to what I did last year, but a little more serious than that. Greg, I think you know what I'm referring to, but yeah, 2018 was it was an interesting year. We'll put it that way. But I think that's going to do it for this week, Greg. You got anything else?
No, I mean, stay safe out there and go Orange.
Yeah, like Greg said, stay safe on New Year's Eve. If you're getting into anything ridiculous, any outdoor hockey, anything like that, be sure to tweet it at us. If you want to use hashtag salami on that too, we can do that. Find us on Instagram, Thunder Blog Sports, just like the website is that. Same thing with Facebook. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us in 2018. For my man, Greg Piatelli, I am the G-Man. Have a great weekend and an even better New Year's Eve. And go Birds and Bears. All right, I'm going to keep the broadcast going. You can drop out at any point because I just have to record an intro, and I think it might sound better if I do it on this rather than on Audacity because that sounds really shitty. So I'm just going to do that. But yeah, I want to write this thing because I don't have my microphone, and when I record on Audacity, like
what if I record the
intro?
The intro.
I mean, if you want to record the intro, I can do that. Do you know what to say in intros?
Hey guys, welcome to the Thunder. No, welcome to the what's this podcast called?
So it's the Funvee Tailgate.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the Funvee Tailgate presented by ThunderBlogSports.com. This is not the G-Man, as you can tell. Switching up for an intro here for you. Today's pod, we had me filling in for Maddie D. We also, at the end of the pod, a little bonus for you. We did the second edition of Blue Line Icing. Jordy and myself got into in the college football. We got into the remaining bowls, the ones that we're looking forward to, some of the lines on those, as well as the college football playoff. And then we touched the NFL and some of the playoff scenarios heading into the weekend matchups. Thank you all for listening. As always, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Thunder Blog Sports, or Instagram, Thunder BLG. Here we go. Here we go.
That was good, except Twitter is Thunder BLG.
Damn it! Edit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some editing, get some of the ums and ahs out as well.
Just do your own. You're good.
No, yours worked. I like that. I actually like the idea of doing it. Yeah, and I'll edit it up and get it all good.
All right, here I'll do the and check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Thunderblog Sports. On Twitter it is ThunderBLG. Other than that, Thunderblog Sports. For now, I hope you enjoy the pod. Go Syracuse Orange, and here we go. Woo!
I like that. I am going to use that. I'll edit it. That's great.
One more edit, to throw in there before the social media stuff. Go USA Hockey in the World Juniors.
I like that. Hey, Flyers are up in Tampa right now. Let's go, baby.
Let's go. All right. Hey, Jordy, great pod, buddy.
Great pod. Yeah, before you bounce, I have this what I was referring to. I've always thought of this like blog post I wanted to write when everything with my dad happened, and before it happened. Now that it has, I'm just like, had writer's block, and I can't get over it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to talk about things that aren't serious when you're alone with your thoughts and all you think about are serious stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
I want to write this post and get it up and everything. And
why don't you first write just a article or something just about your relationship with your dad or your memories of your dad, and then from there that'll unblock you for everything else.
that's actually a really good idea. Maybe I'll do that tonight.
Sort of a trials and tribulations of George Washington relationship with George Washington, um, the 6th and the 5th.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's basically it's going to be me, my dad, and baseball was the idea.
Ooh, nice! I like it. And
Yeah.
make sure to throw a little line in there about how we stood in each other's faces, toe to toe.
Well, I was going to mention about how most kids normally like get into punk rock or something to piss off their parents, and I decided to like the Red Sox to piss off my dad.
Yeah, and you can talk about how normally parents meet the best friend and they love them, but we had no idea that we were like, I had no idea it was your dad. Your dad had no idea that I was your best friend, and it wasn't until Mike Gardner was like, "Yo, that's George's dad," that I was like, "Ah, fuck him."
Shit.
Whoops. No, but listen, I love you, buddy. Holidays are always the worst for sure, but
Yeah.
you'll get. I mean, it only gets easier from here, and it sounds like memes and you are still able to laugh, and the meme
Yeah.
store.
How funny is that? Hacknaller.
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 Ugh.
Oh, another goal by Chris Kreider this tonight against the Rangers.
Chris Kreider is a beast. BC.
Yeah. Oh, Winged Beaver. They live on Old Farms.
Shaman. All right. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
See ya. Cool.